Welcome back to DK Sports Radio. You're listening to Don't Get Me Started. Don't get me started on the Steelers' current winning window. Hi, everyone. It's Chris Carter here from DKPittsburghSports.com, NFL analyst. I'm always breaking down film in Carter's classroom. But today we're on DK Sports Radio, and I'm going to take a break from all the film I'm breaking down to talk about the Steelers' window for winning the next championship or next few championships, if that's possible. Now, this is a conversation that has, for the past several years, hinged on how long Ben Roethlisberger will be with this team. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because recently Ben Roethlisberger made some comments about how he doesn't need to get paid. This is about a week ago from the time that this is being recorded. But Ben Roethlisberger basically came out and said, I don't need a huge contract. I'm not worrying about that right now. And he doesn't really need to worry about that right now. I mean, he's got 2 years left in his contract. I think he's making a guaranteed, I think, $17 million of something around there. Not on top, and that's on top of the money that he'll be getting because he's played each game. But Ben Roethlisberger, he's well taken care of. And he made a good point. And I give Ben Roethlisberger credit for this. And I want everyone to know that I'm giving Ben Roethlisberger credit for something. Because if you follow me, I'm one of the harshest critics of Ben Roethlisberger because I hold him to a very high bar. Because I think that he has a lot of potential, both as a leader and as a quarterback on the field. And I think that a lot of times he undersells himself or underplays what his potential should be. But that's neither here nor there. I give him credit for here right now because he said something that I think, one, it's the right thing to say. Two, it's the message that keeps the media from talking to the Steelers and saying, oh, there's turmoil because, everyone wants to get paid. He says, I don't need to get paid right now, or I'm getting paid. I'm taken care of. I'll let my agents handle that. And he said, right now, I'm in a position where I want to play football. That's my job. I'm going to play football. We have guys like Marcus Gilbert and Marquise Pouncey, and he specifically named those two because their contracts are coming up in a couple of years, and he knows that. And he said, if they're not here, I'm not here. So if anything, he puts the pressure on the Steelers to sign to make sure that they keep those guys around and keep that offensive line intact. And that'll mean the offensive line. They're a talented bunch. I think that Marcus Gilbert's the most underrated offensive tackle in the NFL. If you sat next to Dale Lally all season, as soon as Marcus Gilbert got hurt and later when he got suspended, Dale would keep a tally of how well they did in the red zone without him, and there was a significant drop off from how well the Steelers performed in the red zone from when Marcus Gilbert was on the field and when he wasn't. And the fact of the matter is, Ben Roethlisberger is playing behind one of the best offensive lines in the league. I believe this will be their fourth year in a row of having all five of the same starters, which is kind of, weird to think about. If you think back in it's funny right now, you think, oh, that's normal, but no, for years, you at least have one guy that changes in and out. But no, the Steelers have a very consistent offensive line. This group knows what they're supposed to do. They know how to work with each other. They know how to work with their teammates in Ben Roethlisberger and Le'Veon Bell. I think that's a big reason why Ben is saying this right now. And I think that also means we should talk about this window right now because it's not just Ben Roethlisberger. As much as people want to make it just about Ben Roethlisberger, and as much as he is one of the pillars of this of keeping this window for potentially winning a championship open, he needs more than just him. The offensive line is a factor, but you have to also include Antonio Brown being in his prime. He's in his late 20s. He'll be going into his 30s soon. That's a guy that is the best receiver in the NFL, and he's been the best receiver in the NFL for almost 5 years now, maybe 5 years in total. And you got to wonder how long can he keep that kind of performance up. Not saying that Antonio Brown is going to stop being Antonio Brown anytime soon, but even the greatest of greats, Father Time is undefeated. And not that he's going to fall off very soon, but you got to be thinking ahead how long before Antonio Brown is going to turn into the old version of Hines Ward, And not saying he's going to play just like Hines Ward, but, you recognize that Hines Ward wasn't the same Hines Ward when he got older. And, the situation with Le'Veon Bell, how long is that going to be a thing? Can he stick with the team? And that's another reason why I think Ben Roethlisberger made this comment, is because he knows that other people got to get paid on this team. And let's be real also. And this is the one thing where I kind of raised my eyebrows about the statement from Ben Roethlisberger. Of course, he shouldn't have to worry about getting paid right now. He's gotten paid, and he's going to continue to get paid, because in his career earnings, without the next 2 years of guaranteed money that he has, his career earnings is $170+ million. That guy's set. He's good to go. I don't think that unless Ben Roethlisberger has some huge gambling addiction and he's throwing all his money away, which I don't think is the case, because otherwise we probably would have heard it by now in today's day and age, Ben Roethlisberger is set. And I'm also pretty sure that as soon as he retires, he's going to get jobs somewhere. He's going to be a spokesperson. He's going to be in media. He's going to be talking about football. He's going to get some opportunities to do something because he's a quarterback. He's a face that everyone knows. And he's a face that not everybody likes, but enough people like that I think he's going to get a job. And again, even without a job, I think he'll be fine. But the point, my whole point in this is that he's saying that, and I think that, and I've heard a lot of people talk about, oh, well, look at him. That's how Le'Veon should act. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Le'Veon Bell has made $16 million in his career so far. Most of that was made off of his last franchise tag. Now, he's going to make about, $14 million off this current franchise tag when he sells, so that'll almost double in this year. But let's look at how much money comparatively when we're talking about these two players and how and what they can do. Le'Veon Bell has not made a tenth of what Ben Roethlisberger has made. So again, I think that leans more into why Le'Veon Bell is trying to make as much money as he can right now, because he knows running backs, they deteriorate over time. He knows he's the best in the NFL. He's trying to get the ultimate contract. And this isn't a show about Le'Veon Bell's contract situation. This is about the window, but I'm getting into why that leads into it. I talked about before on the show that if you look at the Steelers' past playoff wins, which over the past few years, They beat the Bengals with the crazy ending from the Bengals, and as the way that they only messed it up. Only the Bengals could mess up a game the way that happened in that playoff run when Pac-Man Jones and Vontaze Burfict went ballistic and Ryan Shazier stripped Jeremy Hill, and they were able to kick a last-minute field goal to win the game. But if other than that game, the only other playoff wins that the Steelers have are against the Dolphins and against the Chiefs. And in both games, Le'Veon Bell went nuts, and he took over. And I think that for this offense to succeed, the current breed of this offense and how it works, I think Le'Veon Bell has to be a part of that core. And I think he's part of what keeps this window open. And then if you take him out of the equation, that window is gonna be a lot tighter than people think it. Especially because of what he does for Ben Roethlisberger in protection. But looking at this window, I think there's a few things that have to also be considered. Is one, they're getting young receivers to work with Ben Roethlisberger, and now with the addition of Mason Rudolph, the elephant in the room right now, there's a question of is there a window that is closing? Because if Mason Rudolph can sit behind Ben Roethlisberger for the next 2-3 years, Ben says he can play however long, say somehow Ben Roethlisberger does play another 4 years, that's a guy that's a veteran now in the NFL, in Mason Rudolph, that's going to be able to sit back, pick apart, film, see how games play out. And then he's going to get occasions where he can play because Ben Roethlisberger is going to get hurt, or there's going to be games where they want to rest him, and Mason Rudolph is going to get those reps, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And if he becomes the next franchise quarterback, well, then that keeps the window open. But even if he doesn't, let's say he's just the guy that's going to keep the seat warm until the Steelers find the next guy. I honestly think there's a real possibility that the Steelers could stay afloat with the other players that they've been picking up. And if you think about it, I've talked about this before. The Steelers' defense is extremely young. You got the older guys like Vince Williams, and they're not old, but they're in their primes right now. The guys in their primes are Vince Williams, Cam Hayward. Morgan Burnett is sort of on the end of his prime. Same with Joe Hayden. But everyone else, for the most part, is pretty much young guys. Bud Dupree, I think, just turned 25. Stephon Tuitt just turned 25. Javon Hargrave. John Bostic, he's in that prime age. He's a new signing. You got to see how he plays first. But T.J. Watt, extremely young. Artie Burns, Sean Davis, Mike Hilton, Cam Sutton, the Terrell Edmonds guy. All these guys are extremely young. And as they're growing, and we've seen good things out of these guys as young players, if the Steelers end up developing a new defensive core that can be dominant in the NFL, because they're good right now. They're not dominant. They're good. They make big plays. They know how to get to the balls on times. They know how to be hot in certain situations. They haven't been able to consistently follow through, but that's why they're young. They're still learning these things, and they're learning to develop the traits that are going to be necessary to be a consistently good defense, which is what makes you a great defense. But I think that defense, if they're able to forge the new core and make sure that they are the new focus moving forward, the years after Ben Roethlisberger, whenever he does decide to retire, even if Mason Rudolph isn't the franchise quarterback, that may be the key that keeps this team afloat and keeps them competing for the next few years. But let's be honest. Looking at how the numbers work out right now, there's a chance that they do let go of Le'Veon Bell. We have to acknowledge that it's a very possible reality that after this upcoming season, the Steelers don't have Le'Veon Bell under contract. So does that mean that without Le'Veon Bell that they can't win? I think that if they find a good running back to replace him, yes, but they cannot afford to just bet on James Conner right now with his injury situation. And I'm not saying that James Conner couldn't become that guy, because I've seen that guy fight through a lot of things in his life, and I think that he has a lot of heart. But he's right now, his situation is a liability as far as trying to depend on him to be your franchise running back. There are other guys that you get out there, but I also think that right now, if they can get Le'Veon Bell for $15 million, as crazy as some people think that sounds, I think that you're getting the worth right there. Because I also think that in the coming years, you're going to see Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette, Kareem Hunt, Todd Gurley, and a number of other guys that are coming up with their contracts after Le'Veon Bell, and they're going to be asking their teams for just as big money, if not bigger. And I think that with Le'Veon Bell, the Steelers, if they lock him up for 4 years and they're able to get out of him the prime of his career and make sure that Ben Roethlisberger has the best running back in the league while he's in his twilight, the part of his career, I think that that's worth it to keep this window open, and it does not mortgage the future of keeping Mason Rudolph and Ben Roethlisberger saying, I don't need a mega contract moving forward. I think that should be a sign of the Steelers. All right, he's willing to work with us because he wants to keep this line around, because that's honestly who the Steelers are looking at right now. They're trying to figure out how can they keep this offensive line together, because this group has been together this will be their 4th consecutive season with the same starting lineup. And with those 5, Villanueva, Foster, Pouncey, DeCastro, and Gilbert, you're going to have a group that can plow the road for the run. You're going to have a group that can protect Ben Roethlisberger, keep him upright for most of the times, and that can handle the speed rushers, the power rushers, and can open up the holes for Le'Veon Bell. And I think that, yes, paying them is a priority, and that's the key, is can the Steelers find a way to pay them? I think if Ben Roethlisberger is serious about he cares more about winning championships than making money, he needs to step into that leadership mode and make sure that he's the guy that goes to the Steelers and says, hey, we need to do everything we can to keep these guys together. He says it's not up to him, it's up to his agents. But I think it's going to take Ben Roethlisberger actually taking a pay cut, not saying he should drop money right now, but when it's time to re-sign for his new contract, he's going to not need to take all the money that he can, and maybe even a little less of the money than he should, in order to make sure that those guys stick around so that he can keep this core together with him, and they can have another few shots at this championship run. But like I said, there also may be more guys coming on the way that could help out if this defense does develop into being the truth. Lots of things to consider, but as always, got to see how things play out in the upcoming season, as training camp is only a few weeks away. But y'all got me started, and this has been Chris Carter here on Don't Get Me Started on DK Sports Radio. Stay tuned to DKPittsburghSports.com and DK Sports Radio for all your Pittsburgh sports content.